Hey everyone, a little bit of a different video here today because I'm not sure when the next time I'd ever be able to show you this is, and I hope I don't have to do it anytime soon. So, I've just finished after a long day of taking apart the organ to repair it, just a couple of faults, and give it a service while I'm at it. And I thought I'd give you a rundown of how to open it up, things to look out for problems-wise and how you might fix them, as well as another couple of things, a tour of how it works, so to speak. So let's get started. First of all, to open it up, you have a screw hole here, here, and here, and it's mirrored on the other side as well. So this back screw hole here allows you to open up the red hood. This screw hole here gives you access to underneath the upper keyboard, and the last one here gives you access to underneath the lower keyboard if you want to clean the contacts and stuff. So it's 3 different screws. I put them in order here. So the long but not longest one is the furthest back, and that's for the upper hood. The longest one is for the upper keyboard, and this short little one is for the lower keyboard. And there's these little kind of washer thingies. Sometimes they stay in the leather, and then other times they kind of fall out, so you just make sure you don't lose those. Also, good to know, unless you know what you're doing, unplug it, because there will be 230 volts or so going around in there, and not something you want to really be in contact with. So first of all, to open up the main hood, I can't easily do this with one hand, but what I like to do is just kind of get my thumb underneath in between where there's 2 white keys next to each other and just get under there. Oh, maybe I can do it one hand. Nice. So that's the inside of the top hood. There's usually a cover across all these travelers here, and you can see it down there, but I've taken it off so I can clean it, and I'll put it back afterwards. Next, to lift up the keyboard, you can lift it up like so, and that exposes you to the underside of the upper keyboard, and you can see all these key contacts here. We'll go over that in a sec. That's usually covered up by that kind of foam polystyrene thing, but again, I've yet to put it back together. And you'll see how it works here on the lower keyboard, and you just lift that one up there, and you can see there's the styrofoam cover there. So obviously we've got lots and lots and lots of these tiny wires, so you want to be careful not to catch them on anything, because I've done it before and you'll lose sound somewhere, and it's a nightmare trying to figure out just about where. One thing to note also is that when you do the lower keyboard, sometimes it can catch on this little bit where it secures down, so just pull that forward slightly to release it, and you can get that keyboard back down. Now, not really much to show on the lower keyboard that can't be shown on the upper keyboard, so let's go straight to here. So I'm going to put that down. So here's kind of how the organ works. You've got all the undersides of the travelers here, and you've got a number of circuit boards. Here we've got the power supply circuit board, which is also the output circuit board, and that delivers the power, does all the voltage transformations. I'm just going to grab a ruler there. Does all the voltage transformations. So you've got I think a 27 volt thing which powers the oscillators, and then you've got a negative 12 volt where that's the negative 12 volt rail there, which powers the rest of these circuit boards, and there's the ground rail for the circuit board here. So starting off, here we have the master board. That's the master oscillator board, and you can see these little inductors, and what you use them for is that's how you tune the organ, each note. This board generates the highest note for C, C sharp, D, all the way through to B, and use that to tune it, and then it gets divided down by the next board, which we'll get under in a second. So if you have the problem where none of, for instance, your C's are sounding, or none of your D's, that's the first place to look. It might be that your master oscillator has failed, and you need to repair that. After it comes from there, it goes down to this board called the divider board. And you can see these little rectangular integrated circuits here, and there's a load of them. What that does is it takes that highest note and it divides the frequency down by an octave, and it does this a number of times to generate all of the different pitches you could possibly get from the organ on any note. Now, if you have, for instance, the problem of you've lost all your C's or all your D's below a certain octave, then that's where to look. Now, these chips, they're very, very, very difficult to come by. You can find them in some older Yamaha organs, but it's kind of made specifically for the job, and it's been obsolete for 40 years kind of thing. I managed to get one from a guy from America, but it did not come cheap, I tell you that. So next, coming from the divider board, we go to these three boards, which are called the integrators. And what they do is they distribute all of those different frequencies of the notes that we play to the keyboard's contacts. And what I'll just lift this up here. What you'll see is you've got all these little tongues, and each of those tongues effectively holds the note, but also the stop for that pitch. So let's say we have the bottom C. The closest one we have is the 16-foot note for that bottom C, and then we go up to the next bar, and we get, or the next tongue, so to speak, and we get to the 8-foot and the 4-foot, the 2 2/3, all the way up to the 1-foot at the top. And when these keys are pressed, you can see it's moving down like that, and all these tongues go against these little bus bars, which each of the bars sums up all of the notes that you press down for that stop. So say the closest one, which is the sum of all of the 16-foot, then the next one is the 8-foot, etc., etc. And then that goes and gets fed over to the filters, which we'll talk about in a second. While we're here, we've got a circuit board here which controls the touch vibrato, and that's the function where you shake the keys like that and it'll warble the pitch. Now, a common fault is that the touch vibrato doesn't work at all, and what you'll find is inside this little thing here, there's a light and a light-dependent resistor. And if we actually turn the organ on, you'll see that turn on like so. So mine's working, and I can tell because the light's working as well. So if the light's not working, then your light's gone. If your light's working but your touch vibrato isn't working, then it might be the resistor has gone, or there's something else going on in the circuit. While we're talking about power being on, over here is a high voltage section. That's where the mains power gets turned on. So you don't want to touch that, even if the organ is off. Make sure you unplugged it from the wall. Now over here we've just got the switches for the attack glide and the touch mute, and that's the balance control for the manuals. I'm going to close this now. So obviously another high voltage section to avoid is the power section. Don't really need to tell you that you don't want to be touching stuff over there. So next, if we go to my trusty hand-drawn service diagram, we get to, after these three integrators, oh, before I go there, those three integrators, a fault that you might find with the integrator is if you've lost a note, or if a note kind of sounds but it doesn't sound right. So I had a problem with a couple of the notes sounded all screechy and weird. Check that you haven't broken a wire or a connection on the integrator, because what had happened on mine is it had been caught at some point and snapped a wire right at the bottom. And after reconnecting it, I got my notes back at the right tone. So this next one is what's called the BV circuit. And if I look again on my diagram, give me a sec. This one's actually I'm not 100% sure about, because the way I created this service manual was to look inside my own organ, but also use the YC-45D manual as a reference. And this board does not actually appear in that YC-45D. So my best guess, by process of elimination, is it controls the attack glide circuit, the vibrato oscillator, and potentially something to do with the bass voices. So if you have a problem with your vibrato or your attack glide, that's a good place to start. Next we get on to this circuit here, which is the bass filters. So that controls all the bass voices, which are controlled up here by those last four stops at the end. So if you have a problem with your bass voices, that's a good place to head. Next we have the what's called the upper filters, and they control the tones for these red and yellow stops there. So it's the brass and the string. So if you have a problem with those ones, that's where to head. This last one before the gap controls the main flute voices. So that's all the white tabs apart from the bass voices. It also controls the bright switches, or kind of faders there and there. So another one that I had a problem with is I lost all of the mellow voices on the lower keyboard when I first got this organ. It just, the way I bought it, it just didn't have them. And what had happened is there was a transistor buffer or something that had failed in the circuit. So after a little bit of detective work, figured out which transistor it was, just replaced that, and I got all my mellow voices back. Now that circuit as well is not quite like it is in the YC-45D, and I have another little circuit here. Picture here. So this shows off the circuit board as it appears in this organ. Obviously it's very simplified, but you have all of the upper manual ones closest to you when you're looking up, and all the lower manual ones are on the bottom. So that's kind of the layout of how it works. The circuit boards themselves are actually very well labelled. Got to hand it to Yamaha there. So next up, we've got the PS board, which is the percussion circuit. So if you have a problem with your percussion not working, that's where to head. This final board, again, is not something which was in the YC-45D, but by process of elimination, I figured it must have something to do with the touch mute feature. So if you have a problem with that, head there. I've already spoken about the touch vibrato circuit and the power supply, so that is all the boards. So other things to note, I've also drawn up a kind of flow block diagram. So there's a bigger version of this for the YC-45D, but it's very complicated, and I've kind of just taken bits out to make it more relevant to this organ. So signal flow wise, we start with the Master Oscillator. As I said, goes to the divider, then to the integrators, and then that gets split to the keyboards and the bass keyboard of the bass circuits. Then we've got separate paths for the various different tones. There's low pass and high pass filter, and that's basically what controls the mellow or the bright side from that little slider on both the manuals. Then we've got the percussion circuit, which also affects the attack glide because they're both legato controls. So when you play legato and hold one note to the next, it doesn't re-trigger. And then following on from there, so we've got a load of preamps. So you've got the touch mute circuit, and then we go to the manual balance control here, and then out to the master volume, then the swell pedal down there, and then we go to the output jack. It's a similar journey for the lower manual, just a lot simpler. And there's no upper controls or percussion or anything, just the simple low pass and high pass filter. And then for the bass controls, you've got a similar thing with the different tone filters. We've got the pizzicato mode on this organ, though some of them have a sustain mode instead. I couldn't comment on how that relates in terms of the circuit, but I imagine there might be an extra board for that. That's about it, I think. So I've actually made a PDF of all of those files there. I'm going to put it in the description for the video in case you're interested or need anything. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to help. And one big thing I would say is in terms of faults and things, one thing which goes a long way is just some contact cleaner. So this is Contact Super 10, and it's that type of cleaner which it cleans, but it leaves a slight conductive residue. So I've been just spraying up some of these bus bars and giving them a little bit of a wipe with a cotton bud. And you don't want to put too much on because it is conductive, so you might get some stuck notes. But it really does help get those contacts working nicely and makes a hell of a lot of difference. So I'm gonna go and put this back together and get back to jamming. But I hope, let's open that up. I hope you have find this video helpful, and it is quite a stunning piece of engineering, I think. Yamaha really have done a great job with this organ, and considering its age, I mean, this was built in the 70s, and what, it's 2025 now? Still doing pretty well. This is only the second time I've had to service it, and I've had it for a couple of years, so while you're in here, you might as well just get as much dust out as you possibly can, because that never helps. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back with something else soon. Cheers!